Hello there, and welcome to Gina Gardiner and Friends. And thank you so much for joining me on today's show. I have a very special guest. Her name is Cara Marshall. She's an intuitive therapist and healer who helps people discover clarity and direction in these incredibly turbulent times. Cara, thank you for joining us and a real welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Oh, it's brilliant. We're going to be talking about how you can be free to be you, to be who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm struck by how many people are trapped in being somebody that they think other people want them to be.
Yeah. It's kind of like how I grew up. It's like, I think most of us can relate to what I like to call the assembly line. It's kind of like we grow up, and as a child, we're kind of taught that it's you go to school, you get good grades, you get out of school, you get a good job, and it can't just be a good job, it has to be a good paying job so that you can put money away, you get um, uh, married, you get a house, you have children, and then you retire. Like it's like the whole recipe card is laid out, and it's just everything is what I call an assembly line. It's like check, check, check. And I know, growing up, I really mastered that. I did really well on the assembly line. And then what happened was I just kind of towards the end of the assembly line, like I was at the time, my gosh, I was 28 and I was running an engineering firm, and I was, I'd already claimed I already had money put away. I was getting married. I was getting a house. I had everything that was already in the assembly line. And I'm like, there's gotta be more to life than this. Like, I can't just keep living this way. Right. And then eventually what happened was I had a sister that had fallen ill with cancer,
Mm.
and and cancer actually did end up taking her life. And when that happened, I just kind of immersed myself into, um, the meaning of life, and what, why are we here? What are we doing? And when that happened, it was what a lot of people call a spiritual awakening, right? And people will say that it's like you start to question, you start to ask yourself, is there more to life than what I've been told? Is there more to life than the assembly line that I've been on? And then that's when we start to discover there is, that we actually are the creators, and that we have the ability to change the life that we want to be living from our heart's desires. But prior to that, it's been kind of fearful for us. And we were kind of feeling as though, well, I can't do that. That's too much. Or, for me, for instance, being an intuitive therapist, I know initially when I started doing my readings, when everything started coming through and the angels were coming through, and I was doing readings for people, I remember at the very beginning, I was kind of like, well, I'm not certified. Because I was on the assembly line. I went to university, got my engineering degree, got my marriage certificate to be married, right? Like, I did all those labels. And then, so part of me was like, well, do I need to go get certified? And then inside, I'm laughing internally, going, that's ridiculous. Like, why would I need to be certified to talk to an angel when an angel is already talking to me? Right? And so that opened the door. And that's where it kind of allowed this kind of question that, hey, maybe I don't have to be on this assembly line. Maybe I can be more free. Maybe I do have choice. Maybe I am more powerful than I thought I was, and there's more to it. So that's where I kind of go into be free to be you. We've been conditioned so much to wear certain hats in different environments, and be a certain way. It's like children, when, I don't know for you, Gina, like I know when I grew up, it was like as a child, it was like only speak when spoken to. And if I wanted to talk to my parents and they had friends over, I kind of had to peek around the corner and kind of like get their attention to kind of say that I had a question for them. And where, today my children are equal to us and they come in and, they're respectful and will say, excuse me or whatever, but there's no hiding, there's no waiting. They're equal, they're not less than. And so it's like that starts to open up the doors of questioning so that we can be free to be ourselves. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how we start.
there's a lot there to unpack
Yes.
and to unpick over the next little while.
Yes.
What strikes me as you were talking then is how far apart being, managing an engineering department and
Mhm.
being an intuitive
Yeah.
appear. And yet my gut feel is that actually they're not as far apart as they might appear. So
No.
how did you go from engineering? What
Mhm.
took you? What was the route that you took to
Yeah.
actually recognize that you were an intuitive?
So I think what it was is, well, a few things actually, but the main component was passion. And
Okay.
so when you say there was really no degree of separation between the engineer and the intuitive, it's very true. Because what happened for me was engineering was a passion for me, right? Like it was like I loved what I did. I loved mentoring junior engineers and bringing things up and creating projects and getting designs done that were out of the box, that weren't done before, and working with the municipalities to create new types of designs and new types of land development that could occur. And so when I transferred that over, what happened, the shift for me was I started, as I was having children, I started kind of immersing myself into a little bit more around nutrition and healthy way of living. And then my sister was very sick at the time, right? And then when she transitioned, it was like it kind of put me in a bit of an existential crisis. Like it kind of, I wasn't over the top, sad, 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 depressed. I was more, I need to know. Like I came from, being the engineer, it was like I needed the information, I needed some knowledge. And I went in and I immersed myself into spirituality and the meaning of life. And I found a lot of books. I went on podcasts. I went on different retreats, different things. And what happened in a very quick time was basically an understanding of I am a spiritual being. And when that happened, everything opened up. And here I had thought, what I thought was a characteristic, strong, I always just thought I was really good with people. I thought I was good at first impressions. I thought, like, because nobody ever talked to me about psychicness or intuitive, or I had never heard those terms before. And so I just thought I was really good, like, when they say people are good with people and good
Yeah.
with first impressions. And so I just kind of thought that was one of my strengths. And so then as this all kind of opened up, I was like seeing my life as a child and I was like, oh my gosh, this is how I've been all my life, right? And I had no idea, and then as it started to unfold, my passions shifted. And so now I saw, okay, I love to mentor people in engineering. I always loved being a mentor and a teacher. That was always something that was part of me. And even teaching approving, like the authorities, new projects and how to accept them, how to pass them, how to prove them, so that it could be built. Um, and then, so what happened was the passion of living my best life, the passion of being free to be me in all of who I am. It's like initially I had thought I was working so that I could live. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so not the case. It's like I kind of came into this aspect of I'm living. It's as simple as that. And if I'm separating my work from my personal life, I'm living two lives. And I didn't sign up to live two lives. I signed up to live one life, right? And so that's where I started to see this passion, and my passion was merging and being pulled, and I was being called to go into more wellness and to help people build their lives rather than building buildings. It was like I was wanting to help people build their lives and to live more with ease and grace. So that's how the transition occurs, is with passion. So I didn't change. I just shifted what was now happening internally within me and bringing passion forward as my lead. So I was following my heart. I was following my heart's desires, and now starting to see what wasn't in alignment with my heart's passions, and allowing myself to step off the assembly line and feeling guilty about leaving this or saying goodbye to that, or transitions.
Before the break, we're talking about how the difference between living a life of passion in one area of your life has been expanded so that actually you live a life of passion with passion. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that strikes me, many of the people that I've worked with as clients come because they feel that there is more to life, and that they say, I want to know my true purpose. And
Yes.
they assume that it's got to have a particular shape, back to the assembly line, it's got to be big, and it's got to be global, and it's got to be, in a particular
Mm-hmm.
shape. But what I say to them is, when you start to live a life with purpose, a life of passion, your
Yes.
true purpose will emerge. That
Yes.
ultimately you can find purpose in the simplest tasks, whether you're washing up, washing your hair, cutting your nails, sweeping the yard. And if you do that in the best possible way, and you do it wholeheartedly, you will
Yeah.
start to have a very different quality of life.
Agreed. 100%. And I like to use I always say, I always put this, I always tell people that if you want, it's like, it's not about finding your purpose, it's living with purpose,
Yes.
right? And how I kind of like to define that is, it's being conscious. It's just consciously choosing
Yeah.
how you want to experience life. That is living with purpose, because you're present in the moment and you're going, yes, I would like to do that. I would like to experience this. No, I would not. And it's allowing yourself the permission to do that. So whether it's going out, maybe there's a Christmas dinner, a family Christmas dinner. This is a good one because there's so many expectations and obligations
Yes.
that are out there from the society, that, if the family's having a supper, you should be there. Should meaning in quotes, right?
Yes.
And it's like, but is that really true? Do you have to go for Christmas supper? Is that what your soul really is wanting to in the moment? Maybe your body is saying, you know what? I really want some alone time right now. So living with purpose would mean listening to your body and not feeling guilty that you put you first, that you said, you know what, I'm going to pass. And I'm going to allow myself to just be with me today. I understand that it's Christmas. I understand that there's all these special things, but I'm special too.
I would take that, and I absolutely agree with you, but I take it another step too,
Yeah.
is that many people decide that they are going to do something that in the past they've done it because they felt they had to. and
Yes.
they've resented it, and they have gone, and it's been a miserable time, and the chances are they've made it miserable for other people because
Yes.
they're like a big black cloud. And so some of this is, if you're going to make a conscious decision, and I think the consciousness is so important, because most
Mhm.
of our thinking most of the time is just habitual and doesn't cross our conscious mind. But if you do decide, do you know what, I am going to go to the family dinner, then
Okay.
I would say to people, then make the conscious choice that you are going to choose to make the best of it, and you're going to go wholeheartedly and engage in it with purpose and with passion. And
Exactly.
you will find that that experience shifts from being something that's awful to something which is entirely different and much more positive.
And even mundane. Like it's like, you sometimes go and then it's like again you're on the assembly line. It's just, like you're not consciously, like you said, Gina, like it's like go there and with the intention of receiving what you need to receive,
And
right?
of engaging with
Mm-hmm.
it in a, and I call it the wholehearted way, that you
Yeah.
actually go in a loving way, loving to yourself
Yeah.
and loving to other people,
And open to the possibilities that may arise.
and that those
Yeah.
possibilities are just as likely to be good as they are to be bad. Because if you have a, if you're already forecasting that when you go it's going to be terrible, it's going to be terrible. It's a foregone conclusion because of the
Yeah.
way you turn up.
And you're going to gather the evidence. I always call it gathering the evidence, right? It's like if you go wholeheartedly, you can gather the evidence of the beauty, or you can gather the evidence of the hardship. But what's cool, this is the part about living with purpose. What's cool, the freedom, when we were talking about being free to be you, that's the freedom. You have that choice. You can gather the evidence of hardship, or you can gather the evidence of the beauty that exists in that moment.
And let's take it one step further. What I
Yeah.
also have found for myself and for my many clients is that whatever you focus on is where you tend to put your attention and your energy. And if you focus on the negative, it appears to expand. If
Yeah.
you focus on the good things and you specifically look for the things to be grateful for the things to engage with in a positive way, they also seem to grow. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a double whammy each way. If you choose to think, oh, this is going to be dreadful, well, that's what will happen. But if you
Mm-hmm.
choose to think, do you know what, I'm doing this because my parents might drive me up the wall, but I love them and I'm not going to have them forever. So let me enjoy this time with them. Let me see if I can make them laugh. Let me see if I can actually find a different way of being with them
Mm-hmm.
that will actually change the way things turn out. And very often that is what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's as simple as that. That's that's what the thing is so many people think that, spiritual awakening or living with purpose is this huge transition. And really, truly, it's almost as if, like, if you were looking straight forward, it's almost like turning your head 30 degrees and going, oh, wow, I have that as an option. Like it's like, oh wow, there's way more out there available to me, and I just need to claim it, and
Yeah.
I just need to allow myself to create the life that I want to be creating. And yeah, it can sound hard, but that's again gathering the evidence that it's going to be hard.
I wonder how many of you feel that you are on an assembly line, that everything is very routine and mundane. And at the end of the day, you look back on the day and you find it hard to see the joy. And I'm going to ask you, Cara, for you, what are the pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who feels caught up in the assembly line? How am I going to move from this, because I've got to pay the bills and I've got a mortgage and I've got kids and I need to send and
Mhm.
what advice would you give to people in terms of taking the first step?
Yeah, so I find what happens when, a lot of clients that come, you're asking a very common question. This is very real. This is very real. And what I usually recommend is first, slowing down enough to listen to your own thoughts, to listen to your own fears, and then giving yourself permission to go down that. So I'm going to give an example. Leaving engineering to open a business, which I did not have. I did not have a business created when I left my engineering. I stepped off the assembly line to blankness, right? And it's like there were fears, and I'm going to say from the traditional society values is I had a pretty good income, and I was going from an income to nothing.
Yes.
Right? And so there was fear around money. And so what I suggest people to do is look at your fears and get them down, write them down. And the reason I say to write them down is because a lot of times our mind will go too quick. It'll address the fear and then it doesn't finish it. And so it makes it feel as though it is massive. It makes it feel as though it's too much, right?
Yeah.
So if we write them down, then it slows us down to address each one, right? So let's go with the fear of money. This is an example of what I do. Is I went in and go, okay, well, what if I don't make any money? Right? Like what happens, right? Because the thing is, I can't leave engineering. Here's the statement: I can't leave engineering. I don't. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to, right? Like all of those things. So then I kind of went to. I said, okay, let's go to the fear. What happens when I don't make any money? Okay, I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my mortgage. Okay, so I lose everything. I become bankrupt. And I'm just letting my mind go. I'm just letting it flow down however it's going to flow. Because whatever your worst fear is going to present.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I just go, okay, I don't have the money. I'm bankrupt. Oh my gosh. Okay, we lose the house. Oh my gosh, we're not going to have enough money. We can't even rent. Oh my gosh, we're going to have to be on the street. I can't be on the street. I have 2 boys. I can't live in a box. Oh my gosh. What am I going to do? Okay, we can somehow live in a community where we live off the land. Okay, I can't do that in Canada because I have no money and it's so cold here. I'm going to have to get down somewhere to like South America or somewhere. And I'm like, can I do that? Yes. Like this is how chaotic our minds can go. And then I go, okay, I know somehow I could end up somewhere where it's warm, where I don't need money, and I could live off the land and we would be fine. Is that what I want to manifest? No, that's not what I want to manifest. But I have went down that wormhole, down the fear to the point where it was not a fear anymore.
It's interesting how often when we face our greatest fears, and actually one of the things that I found really helpful is to face that fear and to almost give it a name.
Yes.
Put it into a cartoon, because when you do that, it devalues the fear level, and then you can start to look at the reality. And I'm just very conscious of time because I'm going to have to come back because there's lots to talk about. But ultimately, one of the things that I would suggest to people in that situation, and I think the writing it down and the looking at it one at one and looking at the evidence, is people see things very much. I've either got a good job or I've got nothing. And the reality is probably somewhere in the middle. And very often that you can create a plan to transition. And the plan may be that, okay, for the next 3 months, I'm going to save some money, which is going to be my heartfelt purpose fund to act as a buffer. And then I'm perhaps going to work part-time and so on.
Yes. And remembering in that our superpower is resiliency. Yes. That's the human superpower. And go and gather the evidence, reflect back in your life as to where you've been resilient. So you can remind yourself that you have a superpower.
I think that's really great advice. Now, Cara, where can people get hold of you?
Well, my website is Cara Marshall, that's with a C and two L's, .ca. And that has all my links to social media, and it has my contact information. So that would probably be the easiest location for me. Yeah,
That's brilliant.
that's beautiful.
So, Cara, it just remains for me to say a huge thank you. It's been really interesting talking to you, and we'll have to have you back on the show at another time. But thank you very much. And thank you for listening. We really do appreciate that. For every 100 people who listen, we give a free meal. And if you would like to contact me, it's Gina, Gina, at genuinely-you.com. And I'd love to hear what you think about the show. And if you've got any questions or particular themes that you would like us to cover, you'll find all my books on Amazon. Just look for Gina Gardiner author page. And please join us on the next show. Bye-bye now.